Is it this cut and dry? Probably not. But if you share it with somebody who loves you, who cares about you, who you have a good relationship with, who isn't toxic, understands vulnerability, understands psychological safety, it's probably going to go better than you think.
What you're doing is you're triggering each other. You're triggering an insecurity in someone else, and then that's making you insecure because you can feel their insecurity. And I think that there's a way to create a safer energy in that.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode number 1503. Your deepest fear also creates your biggest strength. Today, for episode number 1504, happy Sunday. Insecurities get worse when we hide them. So as you have heard me talk about many times, during the early phases of being a full-time entrepreneur, a very broke full-time entrepreneur, a full-time entrepreneur with less than part-time results, like negative results at this point, I went through a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, and I was dealing with a lot of that stuff. Alan and I were traveling. This is when we were living in Florida for the month. And we were getting ready to drive from northern Florida to southern Florida. And I remember we podcasted during the day. We went back to the house we were staying at. We packed our stuff. And I remember I was just starting to understand what anxiety felt like. And for me, maybe trigger warning for those of you who deal with anxiety. I don't want it to make you anxious. But for me, it's tightness in the chest, tightness in the throat. It feels like I can't breathe. That's just the way, that's the way it shows up for me. And we're packing, and I remember I got super anxious. And I remember telling Alan when we were putting our suitcases in the car, I said, hey man, just a heads up, I am super anxious. And I said, I think it's because, and again, at this point, I didn't really understand any of this. I think it's because before in my old job, when I would pack a suitcase and get in a vehicle, I'd be headed off to do something I didn't enjoy doing, and I'd be miserable, and I'd be homesick, and it just wasn't good for my mental health. So I just want you to know I'm feeling anxious. If I come across as any type of way, if I am impatient, if I'm different, that's why. I was very insecure about the fact that I was anxious because I thought it meant that I was weak, or I thought it meant that there was something wrong with me, or I didn't understand. I was so new to me, I didn't understand what any of that meant. And the beautiful thing about sharing that with Alan was, number one, I trust Alan and I feel safe with Alan. Number two is there was no part of me that was afraid he was going to find out that I was anxious. Excuse me. And yeah, there was no part of me that was afraid that I was going to get found out. So there's kind of two scenarios here. One, I don't tell Alan. Then I have to pretend everything is okay for the entire 5-hour ride with the giant fear that Alan's going to think something's wrong with me. What if he asks me and I say, no, dude, I'm great. Everything's awesome. Everything's good. Meanwhile, I can't breathe and my chest is tight and I don't know what the hell is going on. That's part one. Part two is I just communicate vulnerably with Alan. Hey, man, you know how I've talked about that anxiety thing before? I know you don't necessarily understand it, but I'm dealing with it right now. This is how it shows up for me. If I come across as not interested in what you're saying or not as conversational as usual, it's nothing against you. I'm just going through something internally here. Just wanted to share that with you. When you don't share your insecurities with those that you trust, it's almost the main focus of the rest of the time you have together. You're worried about, can they tell? There's a running joke. When you get high, you think everybody can tell. You go out in public when you're high, you're like, oh my God, everybody knows I'm high. Interesting. Everybody for sure knows I'm high, right?
So bad.
So bad.
Oh, I hate it so much.
I think insecurities.
I don't have social anxiety. I do have social anxiety when I'm high.
You have high anxiety? That's very common. I don't get that. I don't get that. I don't know why. And I very rarely go out anywhere when I am under the influence of drugs, but
that's probably why.
Yeah, that probably is. But I think it's very similar. In your mind, you're thinking, everybody knows my secret. What, you having flashbacks?
Yeah. I think we should briefly tell the story.
Man. You want to tell it?
With it. Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. Okay,
Right, you can
so
tell the story.
Speaking of insecurities that you're that get bigger if you hide them. I'm going to not hide this one. Kevin and I are early in our podcast journey, and I partake in marijuana. And I hit this bong, which was not a good idea.
Terrible idea for you.
And I hit it way too hard. And I don't smoke often. I like very rarely. I think I've smoked weed, I don't know, my entire lifetime, maybe 50 times, something like that. But I'm not like an avid smoker by any means. I would occasionally do it in college, and then I did it a little bit in high school, but I was never a big fan. Really, I liken it to spicy food. I hate spicy food. I always have, but I still eat it. We get this guac dip I love the guac, but I hate spicy guac. And it's just eventually, Alan, can you just not buy this? Because you just hate it every time. That's what weed is to me. So again, nothing against the weed smokers. I just personally don't like it. So I hit this bong, and I hit it way too hard, and I'm coughing my brains out. And I am so insecure because I know that I just made a huge mistake. And I turn to Kev and I say, Kev, I'm so vulnerable. How long is this going to last, man? And you're like, you're trying to be nice because you know it's like 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I don't know, like an hour. just nap it off, man.
Go lay down.
Fine.
Go
lay down. So I do. I go lay down, and you put on Joe Rogan for me. I don't know, man. Nope. Can't think deep thoughts during that. I just need to nap it out and get back to my true self. But I'm wicked. I don't like that adjective. I'm extremely, extremely, extremely insecure when I'm high. Extremely. I don't know why. I've always been like that. I remember one time I smoked and I couldn't function. I went into my room and I tried to nap it out, and I swear, you ever been at a party? This is a weird conversation. We're having on the podcast.
Right, on NLU. Who knew?
Yeah, NLU. Who knew? You ever be at a party where you're the host, and everyone's there to see you, and one by one, I swear to you, every single person came into my room to try to talk me off the ledge. And by off the ledge, I don't mean anything negative. I mean, I just wanted to sleep. Like, you got to come out. Like, it's okay. We know you're high. Who cares? Everybody is. It's not a big deal. And every single person came in. They sat on the bed, tried to talk me to get me up. I was like, no. And then eventually I did, and I went and ate the food. When the food came out, I went and ate. And honestly, this is just my truth. The only good thing about THC from my experience personally is the food. Oh my God. Oh my God.
What a weird episode this has become.
Yeah, this has become a weird episode. But anyways, here's my point. This is about insecurities. I get super, super, super insecure when I'm high. And I don't experience a ton of insecurities otherwise, although I have gotten in touch with my insecurities lately, and I want to share one of those after I let Kevin talk.
No, you can share it.
A different insecurity?
Yeah, sure.
The point of this episode, I asked Kev beforehand. He said when you share your insecurities, they actually become smaller, assuming you do it with someone safe. When you hide them, they get worse. I agree. And the thing that I think is important for everyone who's listening, step one is to realize you are insecure, no matter who you are, to some extent. Emilia is the least insecure person I've ever personally met, but she still has insecurities. A couple. They're just very different than other people's. Okay? I know some people who are really insecure about how intimidating they are. I know some people who are really insecure about their memory. We were on book club, and one of the book club members broke down in tears because we're reading a book called Limitless, and chapter 13 is on memory, and she broke down in tears about how much she struggles with her memory. I said, thank you so much for sharing, because book club is a place where you're safe to be successful and great, but you're also safe to be struggle bus. And so layer one is you are insecure whether you think you are or not. It just might not be a normal insecurity or a common quote unquote insecurity. Layer two is identify it. What is it that I'm insecure about? So I told Kev a long time ago that I'm insecure about my lack of symmetry in my nose. So if you've ever studied the science of modeling and the science of attraction, symmetry is really important. It's the distance from, how big the gap in your nose is, not the gap, but the length of the width of your nose. The distance between your eyes and your nose, the distance between your hairline and your chin, the jawline. There's a lot of science to masculine attraction and feminine attraction. That's what it's like. It's called the golden ratio. I won't go down the rabbit hole, but every logo, Apple's logo, McDonald's, all the logos out there have the golden ratio built into it because we're also attracted to it. So the golden ratio is essentially your hips, the hips ratio to your waist to your breasts. There's a ratio there that we really, and that's why people who get plastic surgery, they amplify those ratios, and that's what triggers sexual attraction, quote unquote. And again, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but the point is symmetry is really important for attraction. So I lost my symmetry in my nose when I broke my nose, and I was a model, so I was insecure about it. And I used to hide it underneath a hat because you can't really tell that it's unsymmetrical unless there's above lighting. Above lighting makes it worse, I should say. Okay? And so I would wear hats all the time. And I remember in college I would have like really long hair on purpose because I didn't want to show it. And so at the end of the day, we all have insecurities. The problem is when we hide them, they actually get worse. And then we have to continue hiding them and continue hiding them and continue hiding them. And we can't really shine. I have one client who, it's so fascinating too, because this client is beautiful. Everyone thinks she's beautiful. And she's insecure about how big her butt is. And again, I'm coaching this person, a dear friend of mine, and it's like, listen, most women would kill for that. And so here we are, we have thick hair and we wish we had thin hair. We have thin hair and we wish we had thick hair. We're tall, we wish we were shorter. We're short, we wish we were taller. Right? It's this weird thing of everything has an upside and a downside, and I think that it's human nature to be overly critical of yourself. I know that it is. And if you can just realize that, and realize that even the most beautiful among us are deeply insecure. And that was what really did it for me, is when I became a model and I modeled with other women and I don't think really any other men. I modeled with other women, and these women were beautiful and they were so deeply insecure. And it was like, okay, that's when it really started to click for me. And then I did coaching, and 4,700 hours in, with all different clients all over the world, every single one of them has a deep insecurity. Even the ones that aren't insecure are insecure that they're not insecure because they don't fit in. They don't feel like they're relatable. Emilia is a good example of that. But she is insecure about how intimidating she can be. So at the end of the day, just own it and try to stop hiding it, because when you stop hiding it, you really start to shine. And it's a level of courage that I think a lot of people will appreciate.
So group coaching was definitely an experience for me. Getting to know the people was really, really cool. Everybody's kind of moving towards the same goal. And I definitely started to see the value in what Kevin and Alan were presenting to us. PPT for me was something that was really huge. I was looking for a system to help me kind of keep track of the things that I had to do every day to make sure that I was productive. I feel like I got so much value out of it, and I am so grateful that I took the leap and I decided to join.
Can you believe we're only 14 minutes into this episode? I feel like we've been talking for 2 hours. My goodness gracious.
And we did not smoke.
No,
I don't smoke anymore, but I think that's
marijuana.
Funny. We're sounding a lot like we did.
I know. And
which I'm insecure about.
I connect insecurities to fear, where when you have a fear, you convince yourself you can't face it, and then it gets worse.
Yep.
But when you face your fear and you realize, oh, that's not the end of the world, it actually gets better. It has to be with the right person, though. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why more of us don't share our insecurities, is because we don't have somebody in our life we feel comfortable doing it with. Maybe that's a thesis. Because if you have someone you feel comfortable sharing with, it would be hugely beneficial if you have that type of relationship where you can say, hey, can I share something with you? Kind of an insecurity, something I've been going through, something I'm afraid to share, but I feel safe with you. It's putting the light on something that you've never put the light on before and seeing what happens. And if it's with somebody, is it this cut and dry? Probably not. But if you share it with somebody who loves you, who cares about you, who you have a good relationship with, who isn't toxic, understands vulnerability, understands psychological safety, it's probably going to go better than you think.
Kev, you listed a lot of things right there.
Yeah.
That's a very small percentage.
That's fair.
Of the population.
Maybe take one of those. If you have someone in your life who understands and appreciates you feeling psychologically safe with them, that's probably a good person. But again,
this is one of the benefits. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
this
you're
is
good. I'm used
this
to
is
it.
one of the benefits. I'm insecure about that. No.
I'm
So
sorry.
this is one of the benefits of therapy. It's with your clinician that you are protected. That your privacy is protected.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'll bring everyone behind the scenes. You'll notice some stories I share anonymously, some I talk about specifically. The reason why is because the ones that I say the name, I have permission in advance to share it. I'm very much walking that line at all times. I don't want any of my clients to ever feel unsafe to share things with me. So I always ask permission in advance prior to saying things. And I've had certain people say my name every time. We're good. If it's going to help someone, say my name. Mm-hmm. And then other people who I know don't want me to share it, and that's okay.
What is your next level nugget, good sir?
It's the same. It's the same as what the point of this episode is, which is okay. I never identified as someone who was insecure, and that was holding me back. For those of you who are out there, I think a large percentage of our listeners do identify as insecure, and I appreciate your honesty and your humility. But there's some of you, like me, who didn't identify that way because you weren't insecure about similar things. What I want to help, and this has been kind of a theme over the last 30 to 50 episodes, for anyone who is on my end of Drive to 5, you are insecure, you just don't know it because you're not insecure about the same things. And I think that that's the important piece of this is ask yourself, what am I hiding? What am I hiding? From myself? From other people? What am I avoiding? Because underneath that is fear. It's insecurity. It's okay. Every human being is insecure at times. There's no such thing as someone who has nothing ailing them. Some of the most successful people on planet Earth, some of the most impactful people on planet Earth have some of the deepest insecurities. You just don't necessarily know that. And it's so not something to be ashamed of. If you live there and you never overcome it and you have a fixed mindset and you make excuses and you're constantly a victim who never takes empowerment, then yeah, of course there's going to be shame there. But that's not the road you're taking. That's not who you are. That's not who you have to be. And I think that there's some people who are insecure that own that they're insecure, and then because of that, they really shine and flourish, versus people who pretend they're not because they don't know that they are. And if you're in that second boat, I was in that second boat in my teens and my early 20s, and I just didn't realize that I wasn't insecure about the things other people are insecure about, but that does not mean you're not insecure. And there's a superpower built in just owning whatever you're insecure about. There's so much growth on the other side of owning it in the proper setting.
And that goes back to our previous episode. Your deepest fear also creates your biggest strength. Very similar online with that. My next level nugget, I think I said it earlier this week. I don't know. This week's been a very long week, not just in terms of the actual week, but the episodes have just felt like we spaced them out weirdly this week. It feels like we haven't recorded an episode in a month, and I don't remember what we talked about. But you either get over it or you live under it. With an insecurity, with a fear, either you get to the point where you feel like you're over it, quote unquote, enough to explore it, or you live under it. That becomes the ceiling where you live your life. And is it that simple? No. Logically, is it that simple when you look at it? Yeah, kind of. If you're insecure about the way you look in a bathing suit, you most likely won't go anywhere where there's an opportunity for you to be in a bathing suit. Or you'll facilitate some sort of situation to make sure you're covered up. And that's going to end up being it. And then it'll probably, unfortunately, get worse in time. Maybe you share with someone, yeah, I'm insecure about the way I look. And they say, oh, yeah, I understand. I definitely have experienced that as well. This is what I did that helped me. And now you're on, hopefully, a path of progression. But it can't happen unless you admit it first. Unfortunately, again, the world is set up in a weird way. It just is when it comes to stuff like this.
Believe it or not, the people who are the less insecure are typically the ones who are saying I'm insecure.
Yeah,
it's so interesting how that works. And the very last thing I'll say, I didn't mean to jump in, but I do have to share this one last piece. I feel called. One of my biggest insecurities is being around insecure people. I was a prepubescent, I talk about that. Like I was a little kid and everyone hit puberty and I didn't. Now I'm 6'2", I'm bigger, I'm 190 pounds. I'm not jacked by any means, but I'm built. And it depends who you're talking to. But I can tell people get really insecure around me. That's definitely something that's happened more in my 30s than it used to happen, which is very weird for me because I used to be the overlooked, literally and figuratively overlooked guy. But I am definitely insecure with how much I intimidate other people, and owning that has helped me. And for some of our listeners, I do believe that will help you too. So even if you don't feel like you're super insecure, that's making other people insecure. And that probably is triggering your insecurity. Because for me, when I'm around people who are deeply emotionally intelligent and emotionally mature and who are well-rounded and vulnerable and physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually developed, I'm not super insecure. I'm not insecure around you. I'm really not. I just feel good. It's all good. I know I know I'm safe. It's all good. Yeah. You're not going to freak out on me or whatever. And if you get triggered, you'll just tell me instead of lash out. When I'm around other people, I'm insecure and I get all weird. And I want to overcome that. And the only way to overcome that is to realize, I'm not insecure. I'm insecure about being around other people who I make insecure. So again, just a little bit of a deeper layer for some people. Because what you're doing is you're triggering each other. You're triggering an insecurity in someone else, and then that's making you insecure because you can feel their insecurity. And I think that there's a way to create a safer energy in that.
A very hyper-conscious thought to end the episode. Next Level Nation, very excited. We have something called Next Level Social Media. So at this point, we are producing 55, something like that. Many, many podcasts. Awesome. Next Level Podcast Solutions, NLPS, has grown. Team's amazing. Everything's awesome. We have Next Level Social Media that is growing very quickly as well. Much quicker, in fact, than Next Level Podcast Solutions in the beginning. We literally do people's social media. So we come up with the content. We come up with the caption. We do the posting on multiple platforms. If you're someone who is struggling with social media, but you know you need it for your small business or for whatever it is, your side hustle, for your dream chasing, but you cannot seem to get yourself to do it, please reach out. I am happy to discuss pricing and all that. I promise you, because this is the feedback I've gotten, it is way more affordable than you think, and I would argue more affordable than anybody else. I'll just put it out there because I've gotten a lot of feedback. So just reach out if you're interested. It's something that we're growing very quickly, and I'm very excited, and the team is growing, and we'd love to help you if that is something you're struggling with.
Imagine someone who can talk to you about what you want to put out into the world in terms of social media, and then they can align what they write and what they do with your photos, your videos, and put it out there for you in an aligned way for a monthly fee where you don't have to fall down the rabbit hole often, and you can just trust that it'll be done consistently and sustainably over the long term. That's, as a business owner, it's tremendous to be able to do that with someone that you trust. So again, Next Level Social Media, if you appreciate Next Level University and the standards that we set for this podcast and for how we deliver and over-deliver for our clients, coaching, you name it, Next Level Social Media will be no different. We don't want to put our name on anything that isn't something we're really going to work hard to over-deliver on. So speaking of that, over-delivering, I do believe that I over-delivered earlier on book club. I showed up and I said, listen, I listened to the chapter. I've also read this book in the past, but I didn't prep the 3 points. And I was just owning it. I said, I'm going to rely on the audience a little bit here. I said, I do have a little bit of something that I want to do, but I'm going to ask the audience questions, and we're going to do polls, and we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss the chapter openly. So even when I don't over-deliver, I still think I over-delivered in the vulnerability of, listen, this week has been brutal, and I'm here for all of you. There was like 18 people, I think. It was a really good book club. And it was just a safe space for us to all talk about. In this case, it ended up talking about memory. I talked about that person who was in tears, but everyone was applauding her in tears because that's the safe space. We're all here to learn from each other. So book club, Jim Quick, we're actually ending this in 3 more chapters. We have 3 more chapters. And then there will be a poll in Next Level Nation for the next book. You do not have to have read the chapter. You do not have to prepare in advance. Some people are in their car with just their audio listening in, not video or anything. Some people are fully engaged participating. You can do anything in between that spectrum. We hope that you're there. The link will be in the show notes. It's every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope you give it a shot.
Tomorrow for episode number 1505, Monday, a new week, new opportunities. One word to stop using in your relationship. We have several clients who are in therapy, counseling, psychology. One of our clients is a psychologist. And I've noticed when I talk to her, she's really good about this. She's really good about choosing her words. She's very intentional with her words. So that inspired me to do this episode. So we'll do that tomorrow. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep owning your insecurities. Next Level Nation.